everyone, and welcome to our Friday webinar. Today we'll be looking at elevations, what they are and how they work and what we can do with them. Today we're using CabMaster Pro v11.1.0.121, which is the currently most up-to-date version. The questions we're going to answer today are: what are elevations? How can I view elevations? How can I add elevations to my plan? How can I format elevations in my plan? How do I add dimensions to my elevations? Why can't I see some cabinets or parts in my elevation? And how can I edit my elevations? We're going to cover most of the things related to elevations and what we can do with them, but we might not get to everything. Hopefully we do. I think I've covered just about everything today. If there is something you'd like to know that we have missed, and we have time at the end, you can ask questions at the end. To ask questions in the webinar interface up the top, you've got attend or chat, Q&A and polls. If you click on chat down the bottom, you can type in your questions down the bottom. We've got Aaron here today to answer them as we go. Please keep your questions related to the subject and to CabMaster 11.1.121. If you do have to leave the webinar early, I won't be offended. Just click on the red phone button that says exit down the bottom when you hover over it. The video will be uploaded to YouTube within the week, so you can catch it there at a later date. So we'll start with what are elevations. Elevations are side on or front on 2D views of cabinetry in CabMaster. They can show dimensions, material colors, and walls, among other things. How can you view elevations? There's two methods of viewing elevations. The first is elevation view. To get there, we go to the ribbon and we click on elevations. We click on a view and then we click elevations up there, which is there. Elevation. Alternatively, in the bottom right corner, down here, we've got plan, elevation, 3D, and list. Simply click elevation there. And we can see that we're in our elevation view. Go back to plan view. Now, there is another way. It's a little bit secret if you're not too familiar with CabMaster, and that will take you straight to the elevation that you want to see. As long as you have an elevation placed in your plan, you can right click on the elevation and then click edit elevation. You see it's taken us to elevation view. So we'll go back to plan view. You should probably now cover how we can add elevations to our plan. So we can add elevations of walls and also manual elevations. To choose a wall elevation in plan view, go to the ribbon and click on elevations up at the top. Use the drop down and you can select your walls and we can cycle through those. There we go. That is the most clear one there. So once we've selected a wall, we can use the pick elevation tool. If the line is solid red, then that is a wall that's on our plan. If it is dotted, I'll try and find one there. That is an elevation that's on another page on our plan. So if we go to page 9, which is going to be here somewhere, you can see it's there. So once we have the wall selected, we'll go to, it'll be one of these. that one there. It displays the solid room line, so we know it's on this page. And then we click place elevation, and then we click on the plan. And as you can see, I have the zoom set up way too big. Apologize for that. I thought I had it set up yesterday. There we go. If you want to move it to another page, do not copy and paste or cut and paste the elevation. The reason for this is so we don't duplicate walls. I will show you how to move elevations between pages later on. If we want to rapidly add elevations to a plan, I'm going to delete that one. We can use the auto elevation tool up here. Once we have that selected, all we need to do is click on the wall we want to elevate. So let's go for that wall there. And you can see as we just click around, it adds those elevations in. I'm going to get rid of them. What's cool about this with the auto elevation tool is that you can also do it on individual cabinets. So if we click on, say, there, we can see that it's showing just our oven tower with that wall. Be careful here, because if I do it at the front of the cabinet here, that's a bad example because it's an oven tower and it's symmetrical. I might go with another cabinet, this one here. So that is a tall one door left. It appears mirrored. It's not. Because elevations, like walls, work in a clockwise direction, it's the same with the cabinet. If you elevate the front, it's looking from the inside of the cabinet outwards, not from outwards back to the face. So if you do want to elevate an individual cabinet, make sure you select the back. Another option is the manual elevation line. And we can use it to draw in our own elevations. Again, these work in a clockwise direction. Go to the next page. So we click the green plus, and then we can click, hold down the mouse button and drag. If I hold shift, it's going to lock it to the closest 45 degrees. So we'll hold shift and we'll do that. There's our manual elevation there. Once you've placed a manual elevation line, it stays in that position on the page. It can't be moved. If you drew it incorrectly and haven't placed down an elevation, then just start a new manual elevation line. If you have placed down an elevation, so we'll go place elevation, click on there, but it's incorrect. As long as you've only got one elevation of that elevation line, deleting the elevation will delete the elevation line. As you can see, it's gone. So then you just click on there and draw in a new one. If you don't draw your manual elevation lines parallel to the cabinet, so if we draw it on an angle like that, it will display in a skewed view. And again, if you draw your manual elevation anti-clockwise, so if we do delete that one and delete that one, grab a new one. So if we go that way, place the elevation line, you can see that we're actually looking from behind because it's looking from this direction not from this direction. So it'll appear as if it's mirrored. Manual elevation lines, very good for islands. Be careful with how far in front and behind elevation lines are looking with islands, because you might want to show both sides, but then not show what's behind the other cupboards. I'll discuss that in a little bit. So how can I format elevations in my plan? You've got your elevation, your plan, right click on the elevation and then go to format elevation. This is the elevation view items. Under standard and then position, we have the X and Y position of the elevation on the page. And it also shows us what page the elevation is on. This is where we can move elevations between pages without duplicating them. So if I put in number 8, because that is the previous page, and press tab, we go back to here, there's our elevation there. If I do back to number 9 and tab, there it is there. Again, to be able to do that, it's right click on the elevation and format elevation, and it's in standard position and then the page number. Under style, the first thing I'm going to show you is the display options. So I'm going to click over here just so we can see that a little bit better. We have wireframe, hidden, and solid. You can have 2 elevations. So if I go to here, I place in a second one, and this one here I make wireframe. You can place a wireframe directly over a solid and get something cool like that. Right click, format elevation. Below the 3 display options, we have zoom percentage. That was set at 200 at the start of the webinar, and that's why it came out massive. So it changes the scale of the elevation without changing the scale of the entire drawing. If you need heaps of elevations all on one page, you can shrink them down and fit them all in there. If you've got one cabinet of, say, a vanity and it has a pipe chase or something like that in it, and you want it to take up the whole page, because why not? You can change the zoom percentage there. Page to elevate is not the same as this one here. Page to elevate is what page this elevation line is on. So if I change that, for example, to page 1, it's now elevating whatever's there on page 1. Back to 9. So you can choose to show auto dimensions, so show dims at top bottom. If you had wall cabinets on here, it would show dimensions across the top of your wall cabinets. You can show dimensions at side, and then you can aggregate or merge your dimensions, which, as you can see there, it just groups them all into one rather than having an individual dimension for each cabinet or part. You can choose to show labels or not, however they are, and then you can choose different colors and whatnot for your dimensions. For example, we go orange for our arrows, and we'll make our lines, let's go pink. There's an example there. We will come back to this section here in a little bit. And then under label, we can modify the text the same as formatting any other text in CabMaster. The only difference here being is the text box. By default, it has a code in it, and that determines the units and decimal places. But if you remove those and just type in anything, it will display whatever you type in that box at the end of your dimension value. Once you do remove that code for that elevation, it's gone. Unless you copy in, then remove it, and then paste it back in. So to edit elevations or format your elevations for all future drawings, right-click on your Place Elevation tool, and then click Format Elevation tool. It's the same thing, except it doesn't have the position section, and it's in pink, or blue, I should say. Once you've done that, you can close that, right-click, Save As. You can save over an existing one. If you don't have any in there, you just give it a name. That's why I had pink on my mind. And as you can see it there, it's saved. And that way, if when you do go to place an elevation and it is coming out wrong, you can always just go in here. I can load that one. And I must have selected the wrong one. But that's how that works. So how do I add dimensions to my elevations? So we know how to turn on the auto dimension tool in our elevations. But what if we want to leave those off and dimension things ourselves? We need to do this in the elevation view. We cannot use the dim tool on this elevation. So to do that, right click on the elevation tool and click Edit Elevation. So this is our elevation here. Now, just like in plan view, you can put in dimensions, whatever you want them to be. Hopefully none of this will be too unfamiliar to you. We can add labels in, add in leader lines, and of course, all that will show in that elevation there. There is a webinar video on CabMaster YouTube channel that covers annotations. So if you want to know more about annotating, you can go and watch that. Now, why can't I see some cabinets or parts in my elevation? This is a really common one. It's nearly always because of how far in front or behind the elevation line is being looked at. If we imagine, I'll zoom in here, this red line here is our elevation across there. That's what we're looking at there. We can choose how far in front of the elevation and how far behind the elevation we want to display cabinets or parts of. So if we right click on there and go Format Elevation, that's what this is down here. So currently it's looking 16 mil in front of that red line and 16 mil behind that red line. So you'll see that I have a shelf and a wall filler there. It's not showing up in our elevation there. If I change that to something like 400, there they are there. If I click on there, these two handles are elevation. As you can see, that's why I'm seeing there. If I set that to 0, it's not looking more than 0 mil in front of the elevation, and that's why we can't see that cupboard. If you set the value, go back to this one, greater than the thickness of the wall, any cabinets that back up to that wall, like this one here, will show in the elevation. So if I make that 200 tab, you can see this cabinet's there. That's usually the issue with island cabinets when you're adding in your manual elevation lines. The last thing I want to cover is editing elevations. You can't move cabinets in elevations in the plan view, but you can in the elevation view. So if you right click on the elevation and go edit elevation, then you can select cabinets and you can move them around. A helpful tip is if you go to the insert tab, as well as being able to grab the cabinet, change the kickboard height or the height of floor or whatever it is, you can also use the movement tool up here, 100 tab, and we can literally just move that up the wall or up and then across. And then we can go back to plan view. And that's that. So that covers basically everything there is to know for daily use of elevations. The video will join all our other webinar videos on the CabMaster YouTube channel. Go to YouTube, search for CabMaster, and you'll find a link to our page. And then you'll also see links to our latest videos. We'll quickly cover any questions you have. Please keep them related to the topic. We won't be providing technical support here. If you do need technical assistance with elevations, please send an email to support@cabmastersoftware.com. You can call us on +61 39040 2000 or head to our website and start a chat with one of our support team. Does anyone have any questions? It doesn't look like we have any questions today, which is fantastic. Hopefully I've covered everything that you could possibly want to know about elevations. So there is a question. In a U-shaped kitchen, can I get the benchtop across the other side? I can get the benchtop across the other side. In a U-shaped kitchen, I can get in elevation mode. Well, if it's all one benchtop, then it will show the entire benchtop. It is the same with any cabinet part. If you've got let's just make a new page, shall we? For example, I want the home tab. I'm curious as to how you do that. So I'm assuming you're using actual benchtop itself from here and drawing in 3 of these for a U shape. Oh, if you're having these issues, contact technical support. and then we can actually have a look at those drawings and see precisely what you were doing. Excellent. No worries. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and I hope to see you next Friday.